Politics as usual. I am Dave, 10-year intellectual property attorney, dealing with everything from, you see the shirt, patents, copyrights, trademarks, as well as trade secrets. And today we have a good one for you guys. Now, this is dealing with the Cuban government. This is dealing with the Havana Club trademark, which is currently owned by the Cuban government. And I thought this would be interesting, as this is kind of breaking news, to bring to you guys for two reasons. The first reason is it seems like your boy Biden and Obama are not only at odds allegedly in the political arena, it seems like they are also at odds as far as who should own this Havana Club trademark. Obama is saying, hey, the Cuban government I'm okay with the Cuban government owning it. And Biden just recently signed into law, this month, essentially a law that said that the Cuban government cannot own these trademarks. And as a result of it, kind of leaves up in the air who going to eventually become the owner of the Havana Club trademark. The second thing is, hey man, lobbying will take you a long way. Having a good lobbyist on your side, or at least having money such that you can, have people lobby to your cause, will take you a long way. And who would have thought that that would have kind of played a part or had its effects in the intellectual property sphere? It seems like these lobbying efforts by one Bacardi has paid dividends over the years. So let me kind of set the scene. Again, I want to hear from you guys. Do you think this is right by the U.S. government? Do you think this is wrong by the U.S. government? Let me know in the comments as we get through this video. Again, I am going to read in detail the article, but I just want to set the groundwork as far as what's going on here. So we all know your boy Fidel Castro. Some love him, some hate him. But based on what in 1950s, he overthrew the dictatorship in the Cuban government. And as a result of that, he said all rum produced in the government is going to come under the reign or the ownership of Cuba, the Cuban government. So what does that do? Now you have private companies who are owning rum, they're fleeing the country, namely Company A and Company B. So at some point, Company A sells its business to Company B, including the trademarks. So, okay, that seems reasonable. You sell your company to Company B, including your trademarks. However, right before the sale or before the sale, they forget to renew the trademark in the U.S. A trademark law is much like patent law, in that if you're trying to protect a trademark, you have to get protection in the country that you're doing business or that you want to protect the trademark. So there's no one trademark that you're going to get is going to protect you everywhere, everything underneath the sun. That's not. If you want to protect your trademark in the U.S., you have to get trademark protection in the U.S. If you want to get a trademark protected in China, you have to file for trademark protection in China. If you want to get trademark protection in India, you have to file for trademark protection in India. And last but not least, if you want to get trademark protection in Cuba, you have to file for trademark protection in Cuba. So again, here in the U.S., it seems like Company A, right before sale to Company B, they forgot to renew their trademark here in the U.S. And as a result of that, you better believe it. If you got a famous trademark or a trademark that's, making you a lot of money, you better believe that somebody is weighing in the background for you to slip up. So Company A forgot to renew its trademark in the U.S. The Cuban government saw that opportunity and actually registered the Havana Club trademark in the U.S. Now, as we get through it, I want to hear from you guys on whether or not that's illegally confiscating the trademark. Maybe it's some more facts that just don't kind of present itself in the article. However, if you forget to renew your trademark and somebody else, even though that somebody else is the Cuban government, renews it as a result of it, your boy don't look at that as a illegal taking or illegally confiscating a trademark. But maybe you guys disagree with me. So I would love to hear from you guys on that point in the comment section. So ultimately, the Cuban government actually registered a trademark based on Company A forgetting to renew their trademark. And when Company A sold its business to Company B is actually Bacardi. And Bacardi is pretty much saying, hey, the Cuban government, based on their illegally confiscating a trademark, they shouldn't have any rights to it in the U.S. And so began their lobbying efforts to essentially get that trademark Havana Club back from the Cuban government. So that's where this is kind of setting a framework for what's going on in this case. I'm going to pick it up in this article right where kind of we left off, and I want to hear from you guys. So, new U.S. law ends decades-long Havana Club trademark battle. Cuba's struggling economy faces another blow. A new law passed by the U.S. Congress in December could result in the loss of trademark rights held by the Cuban government to the Havana Club rum brand in the U.S. You may ask me, Dave, why is this even important? Well, apparently, as I said before, the Cuban government, they're one of the largest exporters of rum here in the world. And the U.S. is actually the second biggest importer of rum in the world. So it seems like, and look, and I'm a tequila person myself, so I'm not getting down so much with the rum, but it seems like the U.S. is the second biggest importer of rum in the world. So this is very important for Bacardi, which has just brought this Havana Club trademark as well as essentially the brand to be able to enforce these trademarks against the Cuban government, who else commits trademark infringement. So again, currently they don't have Bacardi doesn't have the trademark Havana Club, ownership of the trademark Havana Club. So new legislation signed into law by outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden in early December. It seems like Joe Biden is doing a lot and a little at the same time. Prohibits U.S. courts from recognizing trademarks that were illegally confiscated by the Cuban government since 1959 without the original consent of the owners. Again, that begs the question. Did the Cuban government illegally confiscate the Havana Club trademark? Like I said, it seems like the Havana Club owners forgot to renew the registration, and the U.S., the Cuban government saw an opportunity and renewed it here in the U.S. Is that illegal confiscation, illegally confiscating a trademark? Sounds like business to me, but reasonable minds may differ on that point. I want to hear from you guys on that particular point in the comment section. So in 1959, Fidel Castro's revolutionary forces overthrew the Cuban dictator Batista and established a socialist state. During the revolution, U.S. companies and citizens were expropriated, prompting the U.S. to respond with a lasting embargo against Cuba. Now, the No Stolen Trademarks Honored in America Act of 2023 introduces a new twist to the long-standing legal battle between spirits manufacturer Bacardi and the Cuban government over the Havana Club trademark. Previously, U.S. courts have upheld Cuba's ownership of the Havana Club brand. However, under the new legislation that was signed by Biden, Cuba's state-owned enterprise, Cuba Export, and its French partner, beverage giant Pernod Ricard, will no longer be permitted to assert trademark rights to Havana Club in the U.S. So we're going to skip this part of it. So let's get to the Bacardi Act. So the bill was introduced in Congress in March of 2023, so about 18 months ago, by a bipartisan group of lawmakers aimed to resolve. And I always think, what did the lawmakers get paid to introduce this bill by Bacardi? I digress. So the bill introduced by a bipartisan group of lawmakers aimed to resolve the Havana Club controversy and prevent anyone from using U.S. authorities to profit from IP stolen from the rightful owners. Again, the question is the fact that the Havana Club owners forgot to renew their trademark to Havana Club, and the Cuban government renewed it. Is that illegally confiscating the trademark, or is that just business? That's the question that I want you guys to answer. I think it's just business, but maybe I'm in a minority. After President Biden signed the law, Bacardi expressed satisfaction, so it seems like Bacardi obviously is happy with the new law. Let's go over the long legal battle over a name. So I kind of briefly was talking about this, but let's kind of get off into it in a little bit more detail. The battle over Havana Club between Bacardi and Cuba Exports. So I'm gonna say, as opposed to saying Cuba Export, I'm gonna say the Cuban government. The battle over Havana Club between Bacardi and the Cuban government has spanned 3 decades. In 1950s, Havana Club was Cuba's second largest rum brand after Bacardi. So these were the two companies that fled. Havana Club, which is company A in my example, and Bacardi, which is company B. Following the 1959 revolution, Cuba nationalized rum distilleries, and the Havana Club brand owners, the Archbella family, fled to Spain. The Bacardi family also left the island but continued producing rum at the facilities in Puerto Rico and Mexico. In 1973, the Archibald family failed to renew the U.S. trademark for Havana Club, allowing the Cuban government to register the brand in 1976. In 1993, the Cuban government, so it's accepting the U.S. embargo, okay. 1 year later, the Archibald family sold the Havana Club trademark and a recipe to Bacardi, which began producing its own version in Puerto Rico. Bacardi argues that the Archibald family had never relinquished their rights, making the sale legitimate. Yeah, I'm not sure. Look, if you didn't register it, How is that the fault of the Cuban government? I'm not sure that's business in my opinion, but whatever. So expired licensing rights in Puerto Rico. So in 1999, significant lobbying efforts by Bacardi secured the passage of a U.S. law dubbed the Bacardi Bill that made it illegal for Cuban-linked companies to renew expired U.S. trademarks or register trademarks confiscated by the government without compensation. So the Cuban government held U.S. rights to the Havana Club trademark until 2006. When these rights expired, the Bacardi Bill prevented renewal, prompting the Cuban government claiming that the selling name was misleading. So essentially what happened was, based on this bill, again, trademarks, at least in the U.S., they are good for 10 years. You got to keep, they're good forever, but you got to renew them every 10 years. So it seems like 1996 is when, 1996 and then 2006 is when the Cuban government had to renew the actual trademark for Havana Club. I think what they say they got it in 1993. Did they get it in 1993? Let's see here. Partner with 19. So yeah, okay, no. So they got ownership of the brand in 1976. So you figure 10-year increments. Essentially the bill was introduced in 93. So the 10-year increments, it seems like 2006 is when they would have had to, the Cuban government would have to renew the brand. But based on the law that was passed in 2006, it prevented the Cuban government from renewing the Havana Club trademark because of the bill that said any trademark that was illegally confiscated by the Cuban government, they essentially cannot be renewed, or the Cuban government doesn't have rights here in the U.S. That's essentially was the law that went into place, and that prevented, as of 2006, that prevented the Cuban government from renewing the trademark to Havana Club, the Havana Club trademark. Let's see. Let me see. Let's get back to the article here. We're almost done. So without compensation, a Philadelphia court eventually ruled in favor of Bacardi. So it seemed like Bacardi, tried to essentially sue the Cuban government, saying that selling rum under the name Havana Club was in the U.S. was misleading, which is crazy because the Cuban government had the actual trademark to Havana Club until it seems like the U.S. government kind of took it away from them. But anyway, a Philadelphia court eventually ruled in favor of Bacardi, allowing the company to market Puerto Rico rum under the name Havana Club. When the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case in 2012, the long-running dispute appeared resolved in Bacardi's favor. However, in 2016, your boy Barack Obama thought in U.S.-Cuban relationships during the President Barack Obama's thought in U.S.-Cuban relationships. USPTO unexpectedly restored Havana Club U.S. trademark to the Cuban government. So it seems like, based on your boy Barack Obama, USPTO essentially gave the Havana Club trademark back to the Cuban government. Trademark rights are granted for 10-year periods, with the next renewal date coming in 2026. So it seems like it'll be interesting what happens in 2026. Clearly, we're about to go into 2025. Since the law prevents the Cuban government renewal, Bacardi may seek to register the Havana Club trademark in the U.S. So again, that's essentially what we're kind of leaving out here. With the next renewal date in 2026. Let's see here. I don't know who is Johanna Tablada. These names, I tell you. Suspect the New York's law aims to block Cuban government renewal efforts and strip it of its rights. So essentially, based on this new bill that just was signed into effect this month by one Joe Biden, it seems like kind of we're back to that kind of pre-Obama situation where the Cuban government cannot renew the mark, and then it seems like the Barack Obama regime kind of relaxed those standards, and the USPTO gave the trademark rights back to the Cuban government. It seems like Bacardi kept pushing, and as a result of it, Biden just signed into law another bill, or another essentially law that prevents Cuban government from renewing the trademark. So some may think, as this person just talked about, some may think that as a result of the Cuban government not being able to renew the mark Havana Club, the trademark to Havana Club, seems like Bacardi may be trying to usurp that mark and register it for his own purposes. Like I said, it seems like Barack Obama as well as Joe Biden are at odds. It seems like the lobbying efforts from one Bacardi has paid off. Hey, I want you guys to let me know, do you think that it was illegally confiscated of the trademark by the Cuban government? I don't think so. But again, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Or do you think that Havana Club, the original owners, just forgot to renew? Seems like the Cuban government took advantage of it, and seems like that's business. Seems like Bacardi has spent a ton of money in his lobbying efforts to get these laws passed, and it seems like it may come out on top as a result of it. Again, the Supreme Court in 2012, they did not hear the case, which means that, hey, this is out of the hands of the courts and in the hands of Congress. And it seems like, hey, Congress can be persuaded with a little bit of money. I would love to hear from you guys, your thoughts on it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the IP community. And until next time, you guys take care.